necessary truth. Thanks for popping in. It's very nice to have company when I do these little shows. It's a Saturday afternoon for most of America, so I don't expect a lot of people to be here. But I think this is very important to point out to the world. Let's make it... What I'm trying to do here is super simplify some of the real stress factors for the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. I'm going to actually write it in there in case anybody's watching this. They've never heard of such a thing. Okay. Chinese Communist Party. Right. If you just bear with me, what I've got here is a very oversimplified power of the P. Okay. Hi. Hello, power of the P. I've got a very, very simplified astrodoodle for the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. It was born in the late 40s, 1940s, and it is now exploded into this monstrosity that has infected the whole world, and everybody knows about it. Or if you don't know about it by now, then I would say God help you. But anyway, the things I wanted to point out with the astrology, to give people a frame of reference, because I normally do full charts for the whole world, and then I point out the stress points for the whole world and the global banking system and all that. But some of you know I also do very deep dive personal readings where the astrology chart of the individual may be completely different from the world. So you have to take that into account. And it's the same planets doing the same transits, but they're transiting a different entity. When I do the normal astrodoodles live, the entity is Earth. And all the people, all 8 billion people of us, and all the land, the water, the gold, the silver, the oil and the gas, the trees, the animals, the food, everything. So this is just the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. CCP. Let's assume I'm using what's called a whole sign chart where each slice is exactly 30 degrees out of a 12-piece slice. Normally you would see on my charts Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Libra, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, and so on. But with the Chinese Communist Party, it's got an Aquarius identity in the first house here. So, again, this is grossly oversimplified, but it's the only way I can get the concepts across in a way that hopefully people will understand. Thank you, power of the P. So, I'm focusing really on the very heavy, very, very serious stuff. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, but I'm also going to include Saturn because Saturn is this very heavy influence right now for the whole world. And Saturn is retrograde as well. But this is very significant for the Chinese Communist Party. So I'm going to start with the really obvious one right here in the second house. This is their Pisces second house of money. Remember, this is super simplified, but this is the Chinese yuan. I should really write it like this. Here's the symbols of the yuan, okay? The Chinese yuan, that's their currency. The Chinese central bank, the Central Bank of China, the People's Bank of China. China has 1.4 billion people. It's a complete, absolute communist dictatorship. It's absolute. Xi Jinping has absolute control over the whole system, which of course makes things very, very dangerous and very unstable, especially for the people. China is convulsing right now. We'll come to that in a second, but one of the most obvious things is the money, because without the money, you don't have an economy. So this is the second house of money, normally ruled by Taurus on the global scale. For the CCP, it is the second house, and it's Pisces in the second house. That's ruled by Neptune. So what we have here is Neptune at the crisis degree, 29. We have Saturn at about 18 degrees. So these are intense because they're right on the cusp. This is the degree of desperation, 29 degrees. So I'm going to mark it in. Hold on. Okay. Neptune in Pisces retrograde, 29 degrees. Okay. This is the degree of crisis. And it has basically been a 14-year journey for China, where the crisis has been very quietly building up in the background. And the leader of the Chinese Communist Party has been he's basically living in denial. Basically, the more the Chinese economy grew, the more communist it became, and the more maniacal the lust for power, money, and control from Mr. Ping. And it's got so far that it's created a classic implosion of communism, where the whole of China is economically imploding live in real time, in much, much worse situation than America. Part of it is simply because wherever you have Neptune in the chart is where there's going to be losses, pain, suffering, delusion, sickness, disease, confusion, delirium, fraud, deception, lies, betrayal, because of the unhealthy expression of Neptune. There's a beautiful, healthy expression, but that's not active right now for China or the CCP. So what I'm trying to do is correlate this crisis point here with Neptune in Pisces retrograde in the second house of money for China. It's retrograding back over here, and then it's going to direct again over here into Aries, okay? And that's a whole different story. Now, secondly, we've got Saturn, the planet of deep, deep karma, also in Pisces, about 18 degrees. Also retrograde. So that's putting intense pressure on the integrity of belief systems, values and value system. This is also the house of value and values, the house of things that are very, very valuable. The things that are very, very, very valuable outside of money, gold, silver, oil, gas, timber, water, and so on. The things that are very valuable are your values system. In other words, do you value evil, power, money, and control, addictions and mania? Or do you value things like responsibility, integrity, compassion, patience, love, and so on? Sadly, it's heavily perverted right now towards the unhealthy expression. So Neptune is retrograde, so whatever can go wrong will go wrong in their financial system, and that's what's happening right now. Their whole financial system is based on a spectacular fraud, theft, betrayal by the CCP against the people. 11th house, the people. So it's very sad, very, very tragic. Hello, Starzy. Mercury retrograde is it's actually starting today. Let me point that out now that we're here, actually, but I'm not specifically referring to it. It's in, because, well, I guess it is important. Thank you for making note of that. We're not quite at the critical mark yet, but Mercury right now is transiting up here. Thank you, necessary. Mercury retrograde. And that is in the 8th house for China. Actually, let's mark that. That's excellent, excellent pointer. Never actually occurred to me to add that one in. So this is the axis of money, okay? 2nd house, 8th house, okay? So this is the world of other people's money over here, where the Chinese people are supposed to trust and invest everything to do with the CCP. The CCP is bigger and more important than God. Just have to remember that. They rule the banks and the banking system, and all the people in China are supposed to bank and do things the way they're told to do. In other words, take out credit cards, buy houses, get themselves crushingly destroyed with debt. And it's collapsing. The Chinese slave camp is collapsing, just like the American debt farm is collapsing. So this axis over here is in very, very deep distress. This is all about the money. I would like to put a dollar sign, but it's the yuan. So Mercury is going to be retrograde up here, and then it's for a short while, for a few couple, let's see, it's about 10 days, then it retrogrades back into Leo. But for the next 10 days or so, this is very, very bad news for China. I like to track China as closely as I know how to do regarding the economy and so on, because it affects the rest of the world in a very similar way that whatever America is doing affects the rest of the world. So right now, this is an extremely bad, very, very dangerous, precarious, irreversible situation for China, the Chinese people, the Chinese Communist Party, the Chinese financial system. And it is imploding. Karma is basically kicking in big time. In other words, dear CCP, if you insist on abusing the beauty of Neptune to your own advantage, you will suffer accordingly. If you choose to abuse the energy of Saturn, well, it's all mixed up because this whole thing is Pisces-Neptune vibes. Neptune is actually here in its own house. Saturn's here too. So whatever can go wrong will go wrong with karma. And that's the worst of the worst that's happening right now. If you check what's happening in China, it's literally like watching an avalanche of the whole country, all the people, the devastation, the poverty, the disease, the suffering, the flooding, the devastation of farms, farming, food, industry, cash flow, the whole economy. That's what happens when you screw with nature. And the same thing, if China decides to use the veils of deception in order to get what they want at the expense of the people, they too will suffer accordingly. But this is much bigger and much more severe. Everybody knows about the Saturn return. We talked about this on one of the charts. 30 years ago, Saturn was here. And that was a tremendous starting opportunity, a point which roughly 30 years ago is when China was in a state of almost economic oblivion compared to the rest of the world, and the rest of the world went, okay, well, you can participate. And China said, okay, well, we'll kind of do like a hybrid, westernized free market capitalist economy, but we're still a communist country, don't forget. And the rest of the world went, okay, and America said, well, okay, well, we'll give it a shot. And so 30 years later, you had a 30-year expansion, which for most countries and civilizations would have taken 250 or 500 years. They did it in 30 years. So it was a very rapid rise, and now they're seeing an extremely rapid implosion. Saturn return. Kerblam. This isn't really a Neptune return. Well, I hesitate on that one, because that would be about 100. I don't know what happened in China 178 years ago. I didn't do the history. But anyway, so this is very, very, very bad news for China. On top of that, we're going to add to the storyline here. I know it sounds scary. Hello, Altair 300. I'm doing the best I can. It's about 120 outside in the backyard right now. It's actually a little bit cooler. It's been up to about 125, 26, 27. All right, next, let's move on. We have Uranus in Taurus. And Uranus is not retrograde yet. But in September, it is turning retrograde. So in a few weeks, things are going to start to get extremely unstable inside the country of China. If you think of this as the fourth house for China, Taurus is ruling their fourth house. That's money, 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 money. China is obsessed with money. The Chinese people are obsessed with money because they've been conditioned to be that way. And it's kind of tragic. So Uranus has been transiting the fourth house for the last 5.5, 6 years, creating immense instability, shock, chaos in the foundations of their economy. In other words, the land itself, their resources, their lithium, their coal, their wheat, their soy, their corn, their mining, their rice, their wheat, their pigs, their chickens, their seafood, their housing. What you've probably noticed is that there's been an amazing number of earthquakes in China over the last 5 to 6 years, and a lot of the infrastructure in China is collapsing. Millions and millions and millions of homes are collapsing because they were all built very fast, very cheap, to make them look really pretty and very expensive, very impressive on the outside, but it was all a big real estate scam. And that scam was a financial scam, and the result is you can see these buildings collapsing in real time. So that's very scary for China, and it's not over yet. Eventually, in not too distant future, Uranus is going to reach the critical degree over here. And then, however bad it is right now, it's going to be even worse. More climate chaos. In other words, like all the floods, the drought, all that Taurus energy. It's very frightening inside China right now. Lastly, I'm going to go to Pluto at the very, very depths, the very foundations of all of it. For the last 18 years or so, Pluto has been transiting over here. That's when we had the global financial crisis right here, 2008, 2009. Over here we are 2024. Right here, right now, we're right on the cusp, the 0 point, okay? Effectively the 0 point, give or take a few weeks, a couple months here and there. But Pluto is retrograde. So again, anything and everything that can go wrong regarding Pluto energy will go wrong. So Pluto in Capricorn and Aquarius basically at the same time. It's all going wrong. Think of it, if you look at it on this side of the equation here, the identity of China as this humanitarian equality for all kind of place. Think of it this way in very, very simplistic terms. The Chinese Communist Party presents itself as being there for the community. The thing is, it's a very tragic difference between community and communism. They sound very, very similar. The Aquarius energy is associated with both. The unhealthy expression of Aquarius is the communism. Okay? So, we've just had a glimpse over the last year or two with Pluto nudging into Aquarius over here. Okay, right here. And the message is very, very simple. There is an absolute catastrophic implosion of the identity of China. In other words, the Chinese Communist Party that has been imposed on top of the Chinese people. The Chinese people don't want the Chinese Communist Party. They hate the Chinese Communist Party because it's a monstrosity. It's an evil, demonic, communist dictatorship that has systematically destroyed China in its quest for glory, money, power, and control at the expense of anything and everything besides themselves. It's very tragic for China. The identity of China as being a very kind of open, free community. We're all in this together. We're all equal. We all share. We all share in the bounty of the CCP. It's a complete lie. The bounty is represented by money. It's a lie. Okay? Over here, looking at the Capricorn side, because we're dealing with both. Okay? Hello, Electro Ray. Yeah, it's just... That's just one part of how bad it is in China right now. It's mind-boggling. It's just horrific. So let's look at it this way, because Pluto is retrograde, so it's actually going back, looks to be going backwards right now, and it's right over here. And pretty much for the rest of the year, and then back again, Pluto is going to be over here on this side. So we're going to see everything and anything that can go wrong in the 12th house. Okay, the 12th house for China, or the 12th house for the Chinese Communist Party, which effectively means the Chinese people, sadly. So this is the 12th house. This is the house of hidden enemies. Okay, this is where the CCP is hiding. It's presenting itself as this magnificent, magnanimous caretaker of humanity, where we are here to save you and make your life awesome, give you freedom and opportunity. Of course, it's the exact opposite. It's a massive slave camp with a CBDC prison system. It's extremely effective, and that's why the Chinese people have been so destroyed right now. So Pluto is here roughly on the cusp of 0, so it's half in Capricorn, half in Aquarius. It's going to creep into Capricorn. So we're going to see what happens when Pluto goes retrograde. In other words, anything and everything that can go wrong will go wrong regarding Pluto. And that's to do with very, very fundamental, simple things. Power, money, and control. Absolute power, absolute money, and absolute control. Because Pluto is the extremes of whatever it is touching. So with Pluto retrograde, we're going to see the great undoing. We're going to see the great undoing of the CCP as their lust for absolute power, money, and control is held accountable in terms of nature. Because it's impossible to override nature. It's impossible to dictate to the people that you, Mr. Ping, are in fact God. You are in fact bigger and more important than God. That's how they operate. And so they've been getting away with it for the last 16, 18 years or so. And the people are starting to waking up. But it's too late. The devastation is already happening. And this is the implosion of China. That's what I see here. The implosion of the business operations of China. In other words, in the 12th house here, remember that represents hidden enemies, fraud, in the unhealthy expression, which is tragically what it is. There's a healthy expression, which is again like Neptune, compassion, love, integrity, beauty, universal love, empathy, inspiration, art, music, writing, heaven, divinity. Sadly, that's just the opposite of what's happening. Over here, it is in fact a world of fraud, deception, lies, betrayal, disease, sickness, crime, murder, mass murder, genocide, all masquerading as, hey, we are here to save you. It's the ultimate, most extreme abuse of power on Earth right now. It includes other places, maybe Iran, maybe a bit of Russia, a bit of North Korea, a bit of Zimbabwe, Venezuela, and all that kind of stuff. Those who operate in those kind of manners. Anyway, the accountability is happening right now. It's very, very serious. So we've got, Uranus is not retrograde right now. It's coming retrograde. Forget that, okay? I didn't mean to do that. Mercury is retrograde here. It's just starting today, well, tomorrow, but who cares? So with all these heavy retrogrades over here, and then the popular one, everybody knows about Mercury retrograde. That's Mercury retrograde is happening up there in their 8th house of other people's money. In other words, the Chinese banking system. It's all coming apart, and we're going to see it live in real time as the Chinese Communist Party banking financial system comes unglued. Everything and anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So I just wanted to point this out as an illustration because I talk about it all the time. The reason I watch this is because China is so big. It's got 1.4 billion people, and their tentacles stretch everywhere in the world, just like America, but in a very, very different way. Very, very, very different way. So it affects us all. When China goes down, it's going to affect America, Europe, Africa, Central and South America, Russia, everything. Okay? So I just wanted to share that. All right, so I'm going to leave it at that, and a little bit later, I'm going to do something very similar for the USA. All right? Let me just check out here right now while I am here. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. I tried to keep this as short and sweet as I possibly could. I'm going to wrap it up now. It will process at YouTube, and in a few hours or tonight or tomorrow, it will be ready for everyone else to view as well, okay? So please like, share, and all of that kind of good stuff. And again, I thank you all for hanging out with me. I love it. Chat amongst yourself if you need to. I'll be back later today.